In the previous video, we created the light underbelly for our monster. So in this video, we'll go ahead and start to create the darker areas that run along the monster's back. Okay, and if I take a look at Maya, the areas that I was talking about on the monster's back are these raised ridges right along here. Well, the problem that I run into right now is that if I take a look at Photoshop at the UV texture editor, it's actually very difficult to tell where these raised areas are. I know that they are actually right along the center of the back, but if I wanted to actually make this texture specific so that it's actually darker up at these high points, it's going to be very difficult to tell where those are here in Photoshop. So what I can do is if I go to Maya and just select UV mode, okay, and if I go in and select these raised areas, which these raised areas are actually the high points of these spines that are on the monster's back. If I select those and go to the UV texture editor, I can now see where those points are on my UV layout. Okay, so I can see that, let's see, it looks like starting from the neck, from the third intersection from the neck, that's going to be my first spine, which is this one right here. And then it looks like just every other vertex is going to be my high point. Okay, so that at least now gives me a better idea of how I need to lay this out in Photoshop. Okay, so now that I've determined that, let's go ahead and go to Photoshop. Okay, I'll go ahead and zoom in on this area. And the first thing I want to do is pick a darker purple color. So if you recall in an earlier video, I had stored in the swatches a darker purple color. Okay, so I'll go ahead and select that. And now that color becomes active in my foreground color. Okay, I'm actually going to select this and make it a little bit darker than what I've got right now. Okay, so here's the color that I had before. So I'm going to go with something just a little bit darker, maybe something like this. Let's hit OK. And let's go ahead and first of all make a new layer to paint on top of. Okay, now that we've got a new layer set up, let's go ahead and call this dark spine. That's what I'll call it. Actually, I misspelled that. Try that again. There we go. Okay, so now I've got a new layer ready to go. I've got a dark color selected. And now what I need to do is try to find a brush that will work pretty well for what I want to do. So let's go ahead and open up the brushes palette. And let's see what we have to choose from. Okay, let's scroll down. And let's see. Let's go ahead and let's try this one right here. Okay, I believe that is the Chalk 23. Let's try that. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, I think we can maybe make that work. Let's go ahead and make a few adjustments to this. Let's take the spacing up on this. Let's go ahead and turn off the shape dynamics for the size jitter. Or let's turn the size jitter off of the pin pressure. Let's go ahead and go through some of these same techniques that we went through earlier. We'll take the angle jitter up. We'll take the pin pressure and link that to the opacity jitter. Maybe give it a little bit of scatter. Okay, I think we can probably make this work now. Okay, so with these adjustments made, now what we can do is start to go in and paint in some of these areas of the spine. Okay, so if you recall earlier, it was going to be this third vertex down. This is the high point of that spine. Okay, so what we can do is come in and we'll just very lightly come in and make some of these edges, and then the center point will be this darkest area. Okay, so something just very rough like this. Okay, and I believe it was going to be every other vertex now is the high point. Okay, so let's go ahead and move down, skip one, Paint this area in. And I'm just going to go very rough at this time. Okay, skip one, paint it in. I just want to make sure at this time that everything pretty much is where it needs to be. Okay, so let's go ahead and test this. Let's save it. Go back to Maya. Okay, and now let's go ahead and reload the texture and see if everything matches up correctly. And it looks like it does. It's kind of difficult to see, but you can see now these dark areas that are on the high point of each one of these spines. And it looks like I actually need to go back and get a couple more. Okay, so let me go back to Photoshop. Okay, from this point, we'll go ahead and skip one. Move down. Paint in this area. Let's go ahead and skip one more. And do this one. Okay, let's save this again. Reload our texture and make sure everything lines up. Okay, it looks like I'm going to need to go in and maybe adjust this one a little bit more. So let me go back to Photoshop. Let me undo this a few steps, and let me actually now paint this one a little further down. Okay, let's save that. Reload it, make sure everything is lined up correctly. Okay, looks like we got it. So now we at least have the rough shape of these darker areas of the spine painted into Photoshop. So in the next video, now we can go ahead and really refine these textures and really make them look like they fit in with the skin.